Alright guys, before we get into this show, let's get through the rigmarole first. Remember, this podcast posts every single Wednesday, just to run you through what we do on this show. We go through the Miami Dolphins news you need to know about, then we jump into the AFC East news you need to know about, and then we get into the Dolphins fan Q&A section of the show where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. So that's basically the show. If you enjoy it, hit that, do whatever the heck you want to do, okay? Because we're just trying to build the community here. Alright, so let's start. There's these two pieces of news are very concerning. If you're a Dolphins fan, I mean, it concerns me because we keep hearing about it, and eventually you're going to keep hearing about it until it actually happens. So it is a little concerning. So we're going to start with this first piece of news, and then this kind of flows into the second piece of news really nicely. Okay, so you guys can read about this on Pro Football Rumors or NFL.com. This is concerning Jarvis Landry's contract and the extension. The title of the article, the headline, is Dolphins Jarvis Landry. Excuse me, I can't talk for some reason. Dolphins Jarvis Landry sets a deadline. So this article is by Zach Links, so I don't want to take credit for this. You guys can go read the entire thing. We're only going to read a little bit of it. It says here, the Miami Dolphins' Jarvis Landry won't hold out in an effort to get a new deal, but he is drawing a line somewhere. The agent for the Dolphins wide receiver says that he will not engage in contract talks after the season opener. So basically, I just read it to you. So he will not engage in contract talks. So there will be no contract talks after the season opener. So basically, once we get to the season and once it starts, we won't talk to Jarvis Landry about a contract until the season is over. That is really close to free agency. That is insane. So this next piece of news is where it gets really concerning. If you're a Dolphins fan, which I am, hardcore Dolphins fan. Everybody on this channel, or the majority, are Dolphins fans. This is where it gets really concerning. And this report was by Albert Breer. You guys can go read about the entire thing on NFL.com. We're just, hang on, listen, man, this is the podcast, there's no editing, it takes a while to scroll. Alright, this is again from Albert Breer. Devontae Parker has drawn immense praise from the Dolphins this offseason. Offensive coordinator Clyde Christensen said he expects the third-year wideout to have, quote, a gigantic year. Albert Breer wonders, it's a very opinionated, this isn't based off of real science, but he brings up a good point. He says, Albert Breer wonders where Jarvis Landry fits into this equation, especially if Parker follows through on his offseason promise. Miami re-signed deep threat Kenny Stills to a 4-year, $32 million deal. Parker would be on course to surpass that should he progress. But the 24-year-old wideout is under team control through 2019. So basically what he's saying is let's say Devontae Parker has a gigantic year, right? We've already extended Kenny Stills, so he's in a long-term deal. So the only one we haven't is obviously Jarvis Landry. So what if Devontae Parker has this gigantic year? What if he has I expect him to. I think he's going to have a great year. Does that make it a little bit easier on us to let Jarvis Landry go? Because we have Devontae Parker. If we did that, that would be the worst move in Miami Dolphins franchise history. Okay? Forget the Drew Brees shoulder Dante Culpepper incident that was disgustingly mishandled. Forget Jimmy Johnson or the Miami Dolphins organization pushing out Don Shula for Jimmy Johnson, and that obviously led to Dan Marino's demise. In terms of, I still think Dan Marino had a lot of years left in him, and all that, basically pushing him to retirement before he was ready. He definitely could have played well within the 2000s, I think. So all of those decisions, Joe Robbie, obviously, it's worse when Joe Robbie didn't extend Larry Zonka and Jim Kick and all those boys to long-term deals. We would have probably another Super Bowl on our fingers in the 70s if we just extended Larry Zonka and everybody else. So there's been a lot of bad decisions in Dolphins franchise history, but to me that would be the worst one, because I feel like Jarvis Landry, and I've said this a million times, Jarvis Landry is the fan on the field. Jarvis Landry is that guy that doesn't come around. He's like one of those guys, he's like a shooting star that only comes around once every decade. He is the franchise. He's the face of the franchise. He is the franchise. He's the leader. He's everything to this team, and he's everything to the fans. He's everything to everything. When you think Dolphins, you think Jarvis Landry. So he is such a good player. He has the ability, he has the work ethic, he has the mindset to be one of the greatest slot receivers to ever step foot on a football field. And to just let somebody like that go would be a mistake. Jarvis Landry, all he's going to do is get better. He's one of the greatest run after the catch receivers I have ever seen in my life. We've seen some great ones throughout the 2000s and the 90s. We've seen, Andre Reed. There have been so many great run after the catch receivers, but I don't think anybody is quite as hard to bring down as Jarvis Landry. He's like a crap and freight train when he catches the football. And he's such a crisp route runner. So there are so many things that Jarvis Landry does for this football team. He puts this offense on a whole nother level. He's 1,000 times better than Kenny Stills ever wishes he could be. He's a playmaker. And that's something that, I think Devontae Parker always has had, but we haven't seen enough of it. We've seen flashes of it, whether that be the Bills game when he runs after the catch for a big touchdown, whether that be the catch against the Ravens or the catch against the Cleveland Browns. We've seen those playmaking plays that we've seen Calvin Johnson make 1,000 times. But Jarvis Landry is something super special to this franchise. He is a Miami Dolphin. And the article goes on to say he wants to be a Dolphin for the rest of his career. But if the Dolphins and Mike Tannenbaum think, well, you know what, if they're thinking, well, Jarvis Landry said no contract talks when the season starts. Let's see how Devontae Parker plays out. If he's disappointing, then he's disappointing, and we'll extend Jarvis Landry. What if you wait that long? What makes you think Jarvis Landry is going to sign that extension? What makes you think Jarvis Landry is not just going to wait till free agency and say, all right, let's see who really appreciates me? Because if you didn't think that he hasn't done enough for you as an organization already, there's something wrong with you. You're not doing your job right. So it's really concerning to me, and just to wait to see how this plays out is insane to me. That's insanity. That's like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I swear to God, guys, I don't know what I will do if Jarvis Landry leaves, but there would definitely be tissues. There would definitely be crying. I will be emotional. It will be sad. It would be the most disappointing thing ever. Jarvis Landry is not only is he a great player and one of the best talents in the league right now, but he's a winner, and he does anything he can to win football games. And that's not something you can find in a combination of, especially a wide receiver. He's got that Larry Fitzgerald mentality, man. So to kind of just, it would be the worst. It would be the worst thing we've ever done. Like I told you, I just ran through the Dolphins' history of bad decisions. That would be on top of the list for me. For sure, because he's young, because he's the franchise right now. God, we need to keep this nucleus together. That whether that be keeping Jarvis Landry, whether that be keeping Devontae Parker, we need to keep this nucleus together with Tannehill, Jay, Devontae, Jarvis, Kenny. We need to keep them all together, because they have a really bright future. And to let this happen. To let this happen, because, if you think that Devontae Parker's, even if he is, so what? If Devontae Parker ends up breaking records and does whatever he does, he could do literally, he could break every record in the rule book. He could break the record for most yards in a season, most touchdowns in a season, by a receiver. Most catch average in a season. He can average 50 yards a catch. I don't care. Even if he did all that, I still want Jarvis Landry under a long-term deal, because he's already done it. He's already been consistent. He's already been this great player. So it's going to be interesting to watch. We better get it done before the season starts, because I think that it goes on to say in the article that it's not, quote, a deadline, but it is a deadline. It is absolutely a deadline. That is 100% a deadline. What the heck are the GMs and Mike Tannenbaum doing in the season anyway? Nothing. Other than looking at, players if they get cut, to add depth to your practice squad, to switch. Other than that, what are they doing? Watching the games? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? You're not burdening them by discussing contract details, which is 1,000 times more important than anything they're doing right now. So that, to me, is a deadline. And if we don't get this figured out, we'll get a little riot together. We'll go up to Crap and Hard Rock Stadium and start chanting things just to get Jarvis Landry signed. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All right, to move off of that, because I could talk about this for an hour, and it is it is very concerning. It just keeps going, and the reason it's so concerning is like I said in the beginning before we even started talking about it, is we just keep hearing about it, but nothing's ever getting done, which is not a good thing. That means somebody is indecisive or somebody is waiting for something, and I think that's what it is. I think they're waiting to see if Devontae Parker has a great season or not, which is just a crapping mistake. So yeah, that's that's what it is. All right, so this is this is just a little note. This is little nuggets here for the Miami Dolphins. Searching for versatility. This is an article by, I can't remember who is this by. Let's see here. I don't want to take. Okay, you can read about this on NFL.com. Doesn't really matter. Searching for I think this is. Hang on. This is by Dallas Robinson. There you go. Searching for versatility in their defensive backfield, the Miami Dolphins haven't yet decided whether Walt Aikens will play cornerback or safety. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald reports, quote, "Aikens is a big athlete," end quote, said defensive coordinator Matt Burke. Quote, this is what Matt Burke said, quote, he's obviously a huge asset to us on special teams. He's like having a versatile player in that role on the roster. So Walt has done a good job again. We're trying to put him maybe in a spot that he's not as comfortable at and see how he does. And I'm messing this up. And he's done a good job working for us so far. So meaning playing safety, not playing cornerback. So he's saying he's done a good job so far. He's putting him in a position he might not be as comfortable. And he's saying he understands the versatility he brings to the special teams unit. But here, and then the quote goes on. He says, quote, "He's likely to act as a reserve, as he saw only 15 defensive snaps in 2016. But as Burke suggested, Aikens is a key special teams player, and he's played on nearly 80% of the Dolphins' special team snaps last year." So, obviously, there was a report earlier in the year that the Miami Dolphins were working Walt Aikens at safety, and I think a bunch of Dolphins fans understand. He's only 25 years old. I think a bunch of Dolphins fans understand the talent that Walt Aikens is. He's actually, he's made some plays at cornerback in his career. He got that pick against the Raiders a long time ago. I don't even know how many years that was ago. That was Derek Carr's rookie year. So Walt Aikens, I would like to see him what he can do at safety, because if you've ever seen Walt Aikens, the man's huge. Big, very tall man. Alright, so this is another little Dolphins nugget here. Let's see here. It's nothing really. It's just, there's nothing really other than that. Alright, so I think we're going to move on to AFC East news unless there's something else. I'm sorry if I butchered that quote and you guys don't understand. Because the quote, it was poorly. The grammar on that was a little weird, but yeah. Let's see here. I'm just trying to check if there's anything else. Obviously the Anquan Boldin looking to play in Florida thing. If you guys haven't heard about that, he wants to play with a Florida team. But the thing about that is all the Florida teams have pretty stacked receiver cores. I think we have definitely the best in the state. Let's see here. Nope. There's nothing else. All right, let's move on to the AFC East. The AFC East news and rumors. I'll give you all the AFC East news you need to know about. I wish we had like a little transition, just a little bit of a transition there. That'd be nice. But again, guys, my heart and soul goes out to Jarvis Landry. Listen, man, I'm telling you something right now. If Jarvis Landry doesn't get signed, as we wait for this to load, I'm just trying to buy time. I don't know what we'd do. I'm sure you guys can come up with some clever things that we could. All right, jumping into the AFC East news. The Patriots have signed longtime AFC East player and longtime Jet David Harris. So they are going to sign him to add, I would assume, linebacker depth. To their, they've already. It's an interesting signing. Obviously, he brings knowledge. He's just obviously a vet middle linebacker, which is in some cases a good thing, especially on some downs. I'm guessing he's going to be a sub package guy if he makes the team. He's going to be a run defender for sure. Van Noy and all those other guys. Dante Hightower. They on third down, the Patriots usually play. Obviously, you would play nickel, of course. So there's about maybe one linebacker out there. It's usually Van Noy. So David Harris, I wouldn't assume he would have that big of an impact. I think he would be more of a sub-package guy than anything. But there you go. The Patriots are going to sign, or going or should sign David Harris. You guys can look up the things going on there. As for the Jets. There's nothing going on with them. Other than, there's really nothing going on. So yeah, there's nothing going on other than, people talking about their quarterback situation. Why if they're, if they're going all young, which they are doing, they're starting from scratch. Why don't you do that at the quarterback position? And Todd Bowles had that funny quote. You got to have somebody to teach the kindergartners or something like that. Which, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's kind of a retarded. Or excuse me, don't mean to use that word. Stupid way to use that. Word. I grew up in the early 2000s, guys. We said things differently than we do now. And we didn't get crucified for, stupid things like that. Let's see here. I'm trying to find the Bills. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when you guys want a podcast. This is the stuff that you got to edit out. All right, so we're going to the Buffalo Bills. It's loading. It loaded. Fred Jackson is to participate in the July showcase for the veterans. Bills have been impressed with Tre'Davious White. So there's some news for the Bills. And that's about it. Other than the fact that the crapping Bills continue to just put Tyrod Taylor down. They still are not sold on their long-time quarterback. Or not long-time, I guess it's, 2 years now? Former Baltimore Raven quarterback there. Alright, so we're going to the fan Q&A segment of the show. Which is, we need a transition bad, guys. Like, I keep asking for. One time, this guy offered me some music for the channel, and I never emailed him back. So yeah, there you go. Kind of sucks, because if we could have some sick transitions. All right, you guys. When I asked, I don't know what it was, but I don't know if I never asked for you guys to ask extra. Well, I guess I did. But I told I cannot say this enough. You get your fan Q&A questions, and it makes everything better. It makes the community better. It grows the channel. It grows the community. It grows the thing that we have going on this channel that's really special that I don't think any other sports channel has, is we communicate with each other. Even if we get 20,000 subs or 100,000 subs or just some ridiculous amount of people in here, it's still going to be the same thing. Trust me, it still will be. It just will make the podcast longer. I've seen, if you're fans of different YouTubers, you definitely can make it work. 200,000 people, they still do fan Q&As. Doesn't matter how many people you are. Trust me. We're just building upon this. Is basically what I'm saying. All right, now to get in some questions. Let's see here. I don't know if I answered. No, I answered that. Okay, I think I definitely didn't answer this. This question comes from This is Patrick, a longtime community member. It says, if Damian Williams leaves next year, who can we use that is currently on the roster to be that, quote, the Swiss Army knife of death? You missed some words there, but that is a deep cut. If you're a longtime fan, you remember that. Let's see here, or a longtime listener. Sorry. So Swiss Army knife. Who will be our Swiss Army knife? I think Damian Williams is such an overachiever. I mean, obviously he was an undrafted free agent, but he brings that energy. You heard Adam Gase talk about it, but I've talked about it before. He brings that special energy to the team. He really gets guys psyched up and ready to go. Even when there were games where he was deactivated, and he was still waving the towel. Like Larry Bird on the sideline. So Damian Williams is not just a player on this team. He's not just a special talent that I think he brings special versatility to this offense. He's also a great leader. But who could replace him if he leaves next year? Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake I think is going to show a lot of people a whole lot more things this upcoming season. I think his familiarity with the offense is going to really help him use his talents to the best of his abilities. I think we're going to see a whole lot more Kenyon Drake. So I think if he were to leave, Kenyon Drake would be that guy to replace him. This next question comes from This is Patrick. We're going to get all, because Patrick, you asked like 15,000 different questions. All right, so we're going to get through all your questions first, and then we're going to get to everybody else here. You crapping attention whore. Wait. Oh, why are we, you asking 50 different questions? It doesn't matter. Let's see here. Isaac Asiata has had trouble so far. This question comes from This is Patrick. He says Isaac Asiata has had trouble so far in OTAs, minicamp blocking. So do you think it is still possible that he wins the starting left guard position? Okay, so there is a difference between OTAs and training camp. There is a ginormous difference, especially for the offensive and defensive line. We're not judging anything until we get into training camp. And if he still continues to struggle, and because if he's struggling in training camp, that means a whole lot more than him struggling in OTAs. So when we get pads on and we're really hitting people and we're getting into scrimmages, we're really blocking people, and they're actually, you can actually sack the quarterback. Like, that is when we will see if Isaac Asiata is ready to be a starting player in this league. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh God, let's see here. Okay, this next question comes from Ricky Ricardo. He says, how many sacks will Cameron Wake have in 2017? And which of these three receivers will have the most yards? Which of the big three receivers will have the most yards? Cam Wake, age is undefeated. Father of Time is undefeated. I think Cameron Wake is going to have a ton of sacks. I think he's going to have a ton of sacks. Maybe, definitely 10 plus, somewhere in that range. I'm going to predict 13 or 14. That seems to be Cameron Wake's. He just always puts in 14 sacks, it seems like. He's always doing double-digit sacks. This is a great question by Ronald. Ronald is always asking these deep questions here. In many podcasts and Q&As, you've mentioned how good Xavier Howard did when he played, and so I took it upon myself to watch a few games, especially the last Bills matchup. Howard did the worst of all the RDBs. He gave up massive big plays to Sammy Watkins. Question is, what did you see to say that Howard did a good job? Because I watched whole games, and the guy is running free every other play and does not stop the run. Okay, so the Bills, the Xavier's worst games. I'm not going to say the Bengals game, excuse me, not the Bengals game. I'm not going to say. Obviously, the Bills game, he played terrible. He let up like 100-plus yards to Sammy Watkins, but he's a rookie. And that offense has a ton of misdirection in it, a ton of play action. So a lot of that has to do with the mental side, not the physical side. Most of it does because of, you can't, with Sammy Watkins as a special athlete, nobody has the makeup speed on a play-action double move or something. Like, that Sammy Watkins is a great route runner as well. So a lot of that had to do with a lot of misdirection. It wasn't his ability. It was more of the mental side of football. And remember, he did not get a lot of reps because of his injuries. In the offseason, before the season started, he missed all of training camp, basically. And so he didn't get a lot of reps at all. And he was still playing just basically off of raw ability. So that's why you saw that in that Bills game, is because, like I said, Bills run a lot of pistol formation, a lot of play action, a ton of play action. Most of their passes is play action unless it's third down. A lot of misdirection, flea flickers. They do all that kind of craziness. So yeah, that's why. And in terms of what I saw that I love about Xavier Howard is because of that. He didn't get a lot of reps. And he shut down some really good receivers. I think the best game he had last year was against the Jets, where I think he only allowed Brandon Marshall on Saturday Night Football one catch. Or something crazy like that, or maybe he didn't have any catches, but I think it was one catch, which is crazy for a rookie to do, who didn't get the reps that he should have, and was basically just playing off of raw ability. So yeah, that's why I think that, and the fact that things you see in practices and things that you hear from other people, especially from Vance Joseph, who is like the toughest guy to please. He was raving about Xavier. But if he could have stayed healthy, I think we would have saw a whole lot more of that. But yeah, to answer your question, he played really well against really good talent with so little reps. So he was just basically playing off of raw ability. Is basically my question to you. But his best game by far was the Saturday Night Football game. All right, so another question from Ronald. I think I answered this one. He says, with training camp coming soon, yeah, I already answered that question. This next question also comes from Ronald. He's asked a ton of questions. He says, as first-time defensive coordinator, do you think Matt Burke can match play calling the real-time adjustments, especially against New England? And if you think he can, what do you think that he makes adjustments? What adjustments do you think he can make? I can't tell you what kind of adjustments he's going to make. I would have to tell you after the game if he made the right adjustments or not. But I think Matt Burke is a smarter. He's a more cerebral coach than Vance was. I mean, they came from the same teaching. They literally basically have coached their whole lives together. Matt Burke comes from a ton of different coaches. He did a great job down there in Cincinnati with the linebackers. He did a great job when he was with Detroit with the linebackers. So he has a really good record. So I think he's a smart guy. He's a good, I was worried about that too, but when you look at his resume, I think his adjustments should be his strongest suit. Now, whether he can lead men is a totally different thing. I think he can. So far that what we've heard, the guys like him. But I think from a cerebral standpoint, the job as a coach in terms of adjustments, subbing in, subbing out, sub packages, exotic blitzes, and so on and so forth, I think that's the part of Matt Burke that we don't have to worry about. Let's see here. All right. So this day, let's see here. Let's see here. I don't think I've answered this question. Dwight Keller says, "Do you think that the Dolphins have the depth right now to be able to?" I think I did answer that question. Let's see here. No, I didn't answer that question. He says. This next question comes from Dwight. He says, "Do you think that the Miami Dolphins have the depth right now to be able to put everyone on their second string into the first string defense and still perform like the first string defense minus Rashad Jones?" No. That's obviously crazy. No, I mean, nobody can do that. You're definitely going to lose a little bit, but I understand what you're saying. Yes, we definitely have the depth if somebody got hurt to not lose a lot at all. Now you lose as much as some other teams would. I think is the best way to answer that. Another question from Dwight Keller Williams. He says, "Are you concerned that Ryan Tannehill and Julius Thomas might not be on the same page this year?" They won't be on the same page. Maybe early on, we'll see it in preseason, how far along their chemistry is. But so far from what we heard in OTAs, in minicamp, is that Julius Thomas and him have actually had pretty decent chemistry. But all that takes time, and it takes time to build. So yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, this next question comes from Lou. He says, "Do you think Kenny Stills will be will have a better year than last year?" He had a pretty dang good year for the third man out there. He obviously grabbed, double-digit touchdowns. He grabbed 10, or was it 10? It was 10 or 9, something like that. I think that's what his role is. He's just the big play guy. He's not going to get 1,000 yards because of everybody else on the team. But if he was on any other team, yes, he definitely is capable of doing that. Do I think he's going to have more yards than he will last year? Probably not. But I think he's definitely going to have more touchdowns than he did last year. So yeah, that to answer your questions, I don't know really. It's a hard question to answer. Depending on what your view of production is. I think Kenny Stills definitely, like I said, he will equal the amount of touchdowns he had last year, or he will surpass it. Because, I mean, again, we were, I think, number 1 or 2 in the NFL in 50-plus yard touchdowns or something like that, big play touchdowns. We were really, really high up there. And that had a lot to do, we talk about the Dolphins not we were last in the league in snaps taken. Some of that is due to the fact that we did score a lot of big chunk touchdowns. That nobody really talks about that. But that was a factor into that stat as well. Let's see here. Sam Coggin, he says, "Besides Koa Misi, Jakeem Grant, or Leonte Carrot-Misi, okay. Do you think that anyone else can be a surprise cut, Grant especially, since he has terrible hands and has had a fumbling problem?" Well, out of all those guys you mentioned, I think the guy who's the most safe is Jakeem Grant. I know you say he has terrible hands and fumbling problem. He does not have terrible hands. He definitely didn't play enough for us to judge his hand. If you watch his college tape, he's got great hands. He's got strong hands. He doesn't drop balls. He's made tough catches in his career. He definitely does not have bad hands. He does have a fumbling problem. I do agree with you on that one, Sam. He definitely has a fumbling problem. I think a lot of that was nerves. But I think Jakeem's actually the safest. We've heard a lot of good things from Jakeem so far. How hard he's worked. How Clyde Christensen has had a lot more confidence in him. How he said he wants him to be more involved in the offensive side of things. But the other guys you mentioned, Koa and Leonte, they have a way higher chance of being cut because, Koa, I think Koa, out of all three of them, I think Carew has the biggest chance to be cut because of how disappointing he's been. He's been very disappointing to the coaches and the staff and especially the fans. So yeah. This next question comes from Jay. Jay, he says, I can't say your last name, but it's Orion or Orion? I don't know how you say your last name. He says, do you think Ryan Tannehill can have a breakout season like Matt Ryan? And if he digresses, should the Dolphins look to draft another quarterback? I've talked about this a million times. If he does really bad next season, if he has a worse season than he did last season, which is the definition of if he gets worse, if he takes a step back, there's so many different words for that. Do I think that the Dolphins would move on? If they did move on, yes, I think they would move on. Because this team's too talented to have a bad year as a quarterback. You can't have a bad year. Unless the protection, again, pause for that. I've talked about this a million times. The protection has to hold up, especially of the division we play in. But if things go as I think they're going to go, then there is no excuse for a quarterback to have a bad year within this offense. So, barring some unforeseen injury, Ryan Tannehill should have a great year this upcoming season, which I 100% have full faith that he will. But if he doesn't, then yes, the Dolphins would move on. I think if they did move on, it would definitely be through the draft. Definitely 100% would definitely not be through free agency or any kind of trade. The thing about free agency is obviously the Kirk Cousins factor. Would we throw our hat in the ring if Tannehill did bad? But I think you definitely would be through the draft, especially Adam Gase. Knowing Adam, I think he would want a prospect to work with and a rookie. And especially since this upcoming draft is stacked with stacked with quarterback talent like Sam Darnold or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. If you're a Baker Mayfield guy, there's a lot of guys to like that are coming out of the draft this upcoming season. So it definitely would be through the draft. And I think, yes, they would, and if they did, it would be through the draft. This next question comes from Dragon. Well, this isn't a Dolphins question. Let's see here. Mikhail Hansen says, do you think that Tom Brady... So this question comes from Mikhail Hansen. He says, do you think that Tom Brady will last a season... Do you think Tom... See, I'm reading this wrong. I apologize to everybody that I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. He says, do you think this will be Tom Brady's last season? And how do you think it would affect the Dolphins when he retired? I think if Tom is going to retire, then Bill would be not far behind. How it affect the Dolphins? I don't know. I'm not going to say we would win the division, but we probably would win the division. But I hate saying that because I want to beat the best. I don't care if Tom Brady's there or not. If he's there, it'll be even more sweeter if we took the AFC East. The Gamer 12345, he says, do you like any NFL teams besides the Dolphins? No. So, Fins for life. There's no other team that I like, or no, it's only the Dolphins. Any other team is just competition. Let's see here. The Gamer 12345, he says, do you think the Miami Dolphins should try to trade for a slot corner like Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie? They had their chances. First of all, I think the reason they haven't done anything crazy in terms of making moves to that slot corner position is because they like what they've seen from Cordrea, Michael, and Bobby. I think especially Cordrea. I think he's been the biggest surprise. So I think that's why we haven't seen any Revis moves or anything else. But we'll see in training camp because those guys will still be out there. Those moves will still be out there to get. And if we did reach out to the outside forces and pull back somebody to get, it would definitely be Darrelle Revis. Let's see here. I'll answer that question in the fan Q&A. Sean Jacobson says, what will be our biggest struggle during... I already answered that question. This next question comes from David. He says, Dolphins have J.J., Kenyon Drake, and Damian Williams, and a few undrafted free agents. Trying out how many running backs will we keep? And is there room if they decide to keep any three backs to add a receiver like Grant or Morgan to the running? So you're saying, will there be room? To keep three running backs, I think is definitely likely, especially in an Adam Gase offense with Jay, Kenyon and Damian. I think that's what it'll look like. I think we're definitely going to keep Jakeem. In my opinion, is just going to be a kick returner / punt returner. So yeah, I think we definitely can still keep 3 guys and still keep the receivers. I mean, somebody's going to get cut. Obviously, somebody's going to get cut. So whoever it's going to be, we're going to have to see. David said Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, Kenny Stills, Leonte Crew, Jakeem Grant, Drew Morgan, and Rashawn Scott. Which one of these won't be playing receiver for the Dolphins this year? Oh my God. You can X out Rashawn Scott. I don't think he's gonna to make it. Oh my God. Let's see, Jarvis, Kenny, Leonte. I'm gonna say X out Rashawn, and just because Drew Morgan, I think those are the 2 that might not do it, and the rest are such a hard decision to make. But I still have faith in Leonte Carew. I really do. Let's see here. Lou says, do you consider the offense to be elite among other teams? Depends what your definition of elite is. Elite to me is top 5. So are we there yet? I think we have to prove it for me to say that. So I'm gonna put a pause, but we definitely have the talent to be elite for sure. Lou says, what is your comment on Sue saying that we are not scared of the Patriots? I think I don't know why. It was funny because he stuttered when he said it, I'm pretty sure. A lot of people made fun of that, but I don't. Again, who crapping? We have, to be honest with you guys, there's been no other team in the AFC East that has been more consistent against them, and I don't know why we never get credit for that. Let's see here, and there's people that still hold on to the Jets beating the Patriots in the playoffs. Like, people still hold on to that. Like, it melts my brain. I have no idea. But what do I think about that? Who cares? We're not scared of anybody. If you're scared of another football team, then just get off the crapping team. Jay the Boss 14, he says, do you think Drew Morgan has any chance of starting without any injuries to Jarvis, Parker? Still starting? No, for sure no. Another question from Jay the Boss 14. He says, do you think Kendrick can be a Le'Veon Bell type player? The difference between Kenyon and Le'Veon is actually Le'Veon was he was a big dude coming out of the he was once a bigger dude. He played fullback at one point. So Le'Veon's a big dude. Kenyon's a skinny guy, so he can't be that bell cow. But he definitely can do some of the things that Le'Veon Bell does in the receiving game. I think he can even do some of those things better than Le'Veon Bell does. Let's see here. This is a great question. This comes from Jared Dickerson. He says, is our defensive comparable to the unit of the early 2000s with JT, ZT, and the duo of Madison and Surtain? Obviously, there's other guys like Tim Bowens, and the list goes on and on and on and on with that team. But do I think that our defense is, they would have to prove it, because that defense was locked down. Even though that defense had its bad days. I don't think, that's a great question. Oh, man. See, the outside was Surtain and, Patrick Surtain and Sam Madison on the outside. That's a tough one, man. That was an all-time great Dolphins defense, and we've had some great defenses. So I think it can. Eventually, it can become that. Will it become that this year? I hope so. Let's see here. No, this is Patrick. Says, I know this is not a topical or typical question, but how does this wide receiver chart look? Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills, Jarvis Landry in the slot, Rashawn Scott at 4, Drew Morgan at 5, and Isaiah Ford at 6. So look, Leonte's out, and so is Jakeem. But then he said, Jakeem Grant, in my opinion, will be used as a special teams player other than a full-time wide receiver, and I think Carew will be cut. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Jakeem Grant will be used as a special teams player as well. I don't think Leonte Carew is going to be cut. The only thing I would change is probably Isaiah Ford would not make it. Ian Good says, do you think Xavier Howard will start before the regular season? Yes. Yes, I do. Upper Echelon says, can Michael and McMillan provide proper depth on the future on the roster for the future? First of all, McMillan ain't depth. He's starting, and Michael definitely can. So yeah. This comes from Upper Echelon. Can Jakeem Grant or Leonte Carew surprise us this season? I hope so. I hope so. And this last question comes from Troy Hicks. He says, how many rookies will start for the 2017 season? So this is the last question of the podcast. How many rookies will start? Okay, here's my... You ready for this? You want to make a bet, guys? If you made it this far in the podcast, I'll make a bet with you guys. I'll make a bet with all y'all. I'm going to say Isaac starts. I'm going to say Raekwon starts. And just as... God, I'm going to get wrong on that one. Let's see here. Ah, man. So, I guess 2? Oh, man. Dear Lord. How about I throw in a wild card? I'm going to say Cordrea. This is insane. No, I'm taking that back. I'm just going to say Cordrea will start at the nickel role. But he actually might. Here's what I'll say. Isaac and Raekwon, they start. At some point in the season, Cordrea is going to start at the nickel back spot. I don't think he's going to be there week 1. But at some point, I think he takes that spot over. So there's my bet, guys. You should throw your bets in the comment section below. That is going to be it, guys. I am Skagster1083. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I know there was a lot of pauses, but I'm not going to edit it because it's a podcast. Remember, this posts every single Wednesday. We go through the Miami Dolphins news you need to know about. We go through the AFC East you need to know about. AFC East news you need to know about. And then we reach into the fans' hearts and souls, and then we answer the questions that actually matter. That one I'm never going to remember that one. So that's going to be it, guys. I will see you guys in the next one.